Good afternoon, dear friends. Welcome to the fifth issue of the Geopolitical Review. We have with us Dr. Nanda Kishor sir, once again, who will help us to analyze the geopolitical changes or events that have happened in the course of these 2 weeks. Sir, welcome. Now, today we are in a very jubilant mood. Last time when we met, we were somewhat depressed. Today, India is celebrating the surgical strike. Sir, can you just throw some light regarding how the things have evolved and what will be the repercussions after surgical strikes and how the surgical strikes took place and the relevance of that?
See, first and foremost is I'll give something very personal anecdote. 2 days ago, I was doing a class on India's foreign policy, and as you are also aware that this particular government under Modi is trying to replace Panchashil, which was a celebrated sober concept that we had, and it was also a time-bound one, but we stretched it for a very long time. It's been replaced with a component called Panchamrit, where it talks about Samman, that is dignity, Samvad, dialogue, Samriddhi, meaning shared prosperity, Suraksha is security, and Sanskriti and Sabhyata. Sanskriti or Sabhyata. That's how these are the 5 components. That means civilizational links and culture. Now, interestingly, in the class of mixed audience, we had the foreign students as well as Indian students. I put this up as a component. Do you think this is very pragmatic? And the whole class said, yes, it is pragmatic. Then I said them, let's give them a score. Let's give the score of 100 for each component. The class was all jubilant and they gave 100 out of 100 for Samman, that is dignity, that this particular government's foreign policy has brought for India. It said about Samvad, we are engaging in greater dialogue across the world irrespective of how big or small the state is. On shared prosperity, that is Samriddhi, they said it is 50-50 because a lot of campaigns that the Prime Minister has done is yet to bring a lot of FDIs. GST has been ratified only now, and there are several things need to be straightened up, and then we will have investment. So as of now it's 50-50. And on the culture and civilizational part, that is the last part of Sanskriti and the Sabhyata, they gave 100% by telling we have promoted yoga, we have promoted a lot of other things as soft part, and India is doing really great. But something that was anticipated and that's also a painful issue is that they gave 0 on Suraksha, that is on the security part. We said we have failed, and this particular government has miserably failed because Pathankot came as a New Year gift and then Uri came as a birthday gift to the Prime Minister. So this is something that everybody was disappointed, and then there was no response for the last 10 days. Everybody was anticipating this government is all rhetoric, and then you had the Congress party spokesperson saying this is the weakest national government that we have ever had on the national security issue. Every other person was accusing, and they were talking about the inaction of the government. Now the surgical strikes, though I had anticipated because the army spoke up for the first time, and one of the army personalities, former army personality, Mr. G.D. Bakshi, Major General G.D. Bakshi, had said that for the first time we have found army talking in terms that used to be of our times. That itself was meaning that the army has been given a free hand, and the statement had come saying that we will choose the time and strike at our convenience, and that has happened yesterday. So something that the mood of the country was so down that we are unable to answer a country which resorts to terrorism or asymmetric conflicts as parts of foreign policy, and continues to hurt a country which wants to extend peace and wants to prosper in the world order and wants to be a agenda setting component in the world order. Unfortunately, we found destabilizing. So the morale of the whole country was so sober, and people who were a bit pro-government and other, they were unable to face people. And yesterday's one has come as a very decisive one because it was planned in such a way, and it was also disclosed. But this was something that a lot of people did not anticipate. They thought again it's a part of rhetoric. Again they will continue to talk, nothing is going to happen, nobody is going to do anything. But it has been proved again. That's why you would see on social media everywhere people talking about 56-inch chest, and this has come as the jubilation. You are someone who comes from the technical background, and apparently I see you rejoicing it, and people are feeling really proud of what the type of government they have, the type of prime minister they have, which is very important, because your internal conditions will decide on your mood in the external environment. And if your internal conditions in the mood is not good, even the prime minister would find it struggling, because next he will be very soon he will be visiting one of these any of the countries, and if there is an issue, what have you done with Pakistan? They continue to hurt you. The prime minister would not have an answer. I think something that we have to very carefully observe is India taking the South Asian neighbors into confidence.
Yeah.
India was just waiting for that opportunity to pull off from the SAARC, where Bangladesh, Afghanistan, as well as Bhutan said. Bhutan is not anywhere associated with any of these things, but Bangladesh and Afghanistan have been suffering same like us. And when they voiced saying that we are pulling it off, I think that gave a voice to India to go ahead and strike at a perfect moment. It's also called as a blitzkrieg in the operational art, in military strategy and operational art. This is also called as blitzkrieg. This was practiced by the Germans and then later in 1967 by the Israelis. So that is attack by surprise. So we did that one, and successfully we could bring up the morale of the country, which is very, very important, and I think the country is celebrating.
The most surprising thing was the tweet by the American president and the reaction of the Chinese. What might be the reason? Because the president congratulating and the Chinese giving a very guarded statement. What might have been the reason? Is it the US elections which is preventing the Americans, because Hillary is also facing the heat and Trump is seeing some sort of popularity? Is it that reason that Americans are very cautious nowadays? And
see, first and foremost is the bonhomie that India and the United States are sharing as of now. Half an hour ago, Mrs. Clinton spoke about the nuclear weapons falling into the wrong hands. That's the terrorists, and they using, and that's the biggest threat, she says, and she's also scared. Now everybody knows the potential of some of these terrorist organizations. At one point of time, the United States supported them on some other condition, but it ended up becoming something else. But now they understand the value of it, because once they went through in 9/11, now they understand the gravity of the situation. And also, as I say, in foreign policy, it's also about the leadership that takes forward, because a lot of times the country's foreign policy is shaped because of personalities. One of the important persons, K. Subramaniam, a strategic analyst, once said that it is these individuals who decide. That's why we say Modi's foreign policy, Nehru's foreign policy. We don't essentially say that the same thing as Morarji Desai's foreign policy or Lal Bahadur Shastri's foreign policy. We associate it with some individual. We have never heard somebody saying Deve Gowda's foreign policy. We don't hear anybody saying VP Singh's foreign policy, right? That means the value that it is associated with individuals, some of these individuals who can carry themselves so well, is very much reflected. That's the reason you see someone like Obama congratulating, or the Chinese giving a guarded statement, because it's something that dates back to the type of understanding and the partnership the Pakistanis have with the Chinese, and Chinese buy a lot of arms, Chinese sell a lot of their arms to the Pakistanis, and they have an understanding. No doubt about it, but even China would face this very soon. They're already facing the heat of the terrorism that's associated with some of these extremist groups, and very soon they will also be facing the heat, so they have to be proactive. That's one of the reasons you find even Indian opposition party congratulating the Prime Minister. First time after 2 years of his taking over to the position of the Prime Minister.
In the same time, the next day, even Iran had some sort of
issues in the Balochistan region. Yes,
Balochistan. Was it that there was a coordination between Indian government and Iran, or did they take their own call?
See, one important thing is, when it comes to the larger issue of the Islamic nations and such other things, Iran may support Pakistan. But in other times on several issues, Iran, I think, has varied interest, or it has a difference of opinion with Pakistan, because they very much know it is Saudi Arabia which supports Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia and Iran's rivalry is very much known because of the Shia-Sunni conflict. So I think surgical strike is from our side, but the pressure is mounted from all other different places. I think that has made the situation vulnerable. Now, lot of strategic moves by India. One was the Indus Water Treaty component, SAARC component, MFN component, then the international pressure where the American Congress is contemplating on calling calling the state of Pakistan as a sponsor of terrorism. I think the pressure has been mounted heavily, and our presence at the UNGA, the Minister of External Affairs spoke extensively. She spoke absolutely great about the situation that we are going through. I think that somehow it has worked like a perfect meal from all the sides to attack the Pakistani investment.
How was Madam Sushma Swaraj's performance in UNGA?
Absolutely. Something very interesting is she chose to speak in Hindi, in which she is very comfortable. And anyway, everybody knows that it will be translated. You don't need to impress people with your language. Rather, you have to have that flow, clarity of thought. I think she's at best when it is in Hindi, and we have seen her in the parliament. We know what type of a personality she is. I think she pulled it off great, and this has been accepted by everyone. And most surprisingly, you would see someone like Mr. Arvind Kejriwal tweeting that Madam Sushma Swaraj spoke greatly. Though one of my friend jovially tweeted saying that congratulations to the doctors in Bangalore. After they operated his throat and tongue, now he's been speaking something positive. So that's on a lighter note, but essentially, even someone like Arvind Kejriwal who would rather take a very negative note on anything and everything that's being done by the BJP, I think even he spoke about it, and several scholars across the spectrum have appreciated the way she put it across, and the way India refrains from abusive language or anything that sort of. It wants to make a case, it would make a case. It would present itself in a dignified way, because that's one of the important components of the Panchamrit itself. That is Samman, that is dignity. You can't go below your dignity. You have to conduct yourself that way. That's why you would see the Prime Minister not responding to someone like Kejriwal when he calls him psychopath, he calls him so many things. The Prime Minister doesn't enter into such type of this thing, because he needs to go beyond that one. His stature should not be stooped down to the level of fighting with him on Twitter or anything that sort of.
Her reply.
No, it's absolutely, I think the game was on. I think it was all well planned. They all thought of that, they anticipated the move. See, something that even Chanakya in his Arthashastra spoke was this, that you have to anticipate the move of your enemy or adversary much in advance. That means it's a game of chess. You can't just rely on the next step. It has to be that if I make this particular move, what would be the move of the next one or your opponent? So thrice, 4 times the next moves you have to imagine, and then you have to do. So India had anticipated there would be a rebuttal. There would be a response. What has to be our side response? Who are responsible? Who would be talking what? That's why you would see Mr. Vikas Swarup, the spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs, giving statements in accordance to what Mrs. Swaraj was talking about. Mrs. Swaraj's statement was echoed in here. Both were echoed with the Prime Minister speaking about it. So I think there was a coherence in thought, which was very important. I think that's how we have to. If there are issues and if there is a problem in representing ourselves within, I think that's a damaging part. I think what the beauty of this particular event that happened and the way we represented it, there was a lot of coherence of thought and coherence of action, which was very important.
Yesterday, one more surprising thing came up. That was a cut in the oil production by the OPEC nations. Was it that it was a coincidence, or does it have any connection with the Pakistan surgical attack?
No, probably I don't directly connect with this one, though it sounds more of a conspiracy theory. But it might have just happened, an identical one, and more so, something that the whole country did not anticipate was the type of respect that Mr. Modi would get in these places. But he has been accorded one of the highest respects of all time, and they appreciate every move of him, because he hails from the Hindu nationalist tradition and all these things. But yet they have no problem with him. All of them are dealing with him well, and he's been able to conduct himself in the best possible manner.
So once again, we thank Dr. Nanda Kishor sir for always being with us and enlightening us about the latest geopolitical scenario. Dear friends, we'll meet you in a short time with our next episode. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rashmi.